If you've ever run ads before, or even just thought about running them in the first place, but you weren't really sure they'd actually work for your business, this video is for you. Most businesses waste money on meta ads because they don't understand the 5 things that actually make an ad work. So today I'm going to give you the framework I use and developed called the 5C method to build ads that not only get clicks, but also customers for as little as $5 a day. By the way, this video isn't about clicking buttons inside the ads manager. Meta changes the interface every few months anyways, but the strategy is actually what makes ads work. And that's what we'll be covering today. All right, so first we want to begin by going to adsmanager.facebook.com. Now, as promised, I'm going to show you what a high-performing campaign looks like. I have one right here that my team is spending about $5 a day to get leads with, and out of those, it costs me about $4.95 to actually convert the lead. Now, we're going to start with our 5 C's as promised, and the first one is conversion. So when you actually hit create to build your first ad, Meta is going to ask you what it is you want people to do. Now, conversion, you can think about it as 2 things, your objective and your destination. Most people get this wrong. They pick the wrong objective, meaning that Meta will happily spend all of their money to optimize for the wrong thing. And usually the most common one I see is they run ads for website clicks. But the reality is Meta is a pattern recognition machine, and if you optimize for something that's very low value like website clicks, it just shows it to anybody who's willing to click a random button. And that's usually not what you want. So pro tip number 1, the algorithm obeys your objective at all times. If you pick traffic, Meta will find the cheapest clickers, people who are cheap to show your ad to and who will click on it. But clicks are not buyers. And if you pick engagement as an example, Meta will find people who like posts and they will like your posts, but they'll never actually buy anything. So 90% of the time, the only 2 that you're probably going to use are leads for service and sales for products. Now, at the end of the day, if you are trying to do app installs as well, like you're an app founder, an app developer, you're going to want that one. And then you also do have these other engagement ones as well. I don't recommend engagement. Let me make this a little bit smaller so the text isn't cut off. I don't recommend these engagement ones because if you don't have someplace, their destination that you can send them to, that's going to get their information, that's modern, that's not platform dependent, that's a bigger issue. So meaning if you're like a contractor, if you're an accountant, if you're like somebody local and all of your customers rely on phone calls to become a lead or to buy your thing, then please fix that, especially moving into the next year when this video is recorded. Nobody wants to call, especially if they see your ad at 10:30 at night. Build a booking platform, sell your stuff online, some modern way to actually move your product or service into people who actually want it. Hence why engagement is usually low value. Traffic is usually the lowest value because it's reliant on link clicks. It's just views. You're just paying for eyeballs, but eyeballs that don't do anything. And awareness is basically just plain old eyeballs. So again, 90% of the time, it's either leads, it's either sales. If your service, it's leads. If your sales, it's product. So pro tip number 2, when it comes to your destination, shorter path does tend to equal cheaper ads. So if I were to do leads as an example or sales, with leads, you can do collecting leads on Facebook. They have forms that you could fill out and they'll send you their information. Or you can also capture a lead on, say, another website. Like if you have an online booking platform, if you have an opt-in, like a CRM, something where they put in their email and it stores it somewhere on your website, that's also another example. And the reason I bring this up is because the shortest path typically results in the most amount of people, but also the lowest intent. Meaning if you make it very easy for some random person to fill out your lead form on Facebook versus having to go to your website, read something on a page, put in their email, you get more leads, but they're lower quality. Same thing usually with sales. And this one's really important. If I have to go to your website and I want to buy something, make it as easy as possible to buy it. Express payment, one-page checkout, shoot me to the landing page. So pro tip number 2 is lead forms will always be cheaper than landing pages or a dedicated website to capture leads. Booking pages will always have smaller volume, but higher intent. Same thing with sales. Easy sales results in more people buying. Harder sales results in less people buying. So make it easy to buy or make it easy to book. Or if you feel like you need to add some friction into either one, then at the end of the day, it really depends on what you're trying to do. I personally would rather have less people look at my stuff, but take more actions. Meaning I'd rather have more buyers, I'd rather have more qualified leads than just a bunch of random people who are going to fill out my stuff. So in this case, let's do a leads one. And the final thing you have to think about is it's going to create this sort of template. And realistically, it's layered. It's kind of tiered. If you've never used this before, your campaign is what you actually are trying to have people do. So in this case, this is a leads campaign. So this is the top of everything. And what your budget actually is or how you want to determine that budget. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but for now, just focus on top of it is leads, sales, whatever your objective is. Then the middle of this is typically going to be your different types of elements that you're targeting, where they're actually converting, if you want them to go to a website or a lead form. And then at the very bottom is your actual ad, your video or photo. Now, my pro tip number 3 when it comes to this and why this is important is that we really don't want to launch an ad that has kind of no clear path. So when it comes down to it, if you're sending people somewhere, even if it's the forms, even if it's instant forms, your landing page should realistically answer 3 questions, or your website or wherever they're going to, your instant form. What is this? Who is it for? And what do I do next? Everything else is entirely optional. And the reason I bring this up is because your first objective is to pick the right objective, and then your second thing is to send people to a clear destination. Don't make it hard for people to support your business. So once they get to that point, just send them straight to an easy booking form. Send them straight to an easy checkout. Do not send them to your homepage. That's another big mistake I see. So now that we've picked our objective, we want more leads. It's created a basic outline of our campaign. We're going to hit edit on this. And what we're going to do is we could just leave this naming. You could call your campaign whatever you want, but let's say we wanted, I don't know, new roofing leads or new, accounting leads, whatever you want to call it, just so you can keep track of it. The campaign name really doesn't matter. It's only internal for you or usage, and people tend to overcomplicate it, but you could just name it something that you're going to remember. And this is very important, though, if you're starting multiple campaigns. That way you can distinguish between what they're doing. So for now, we're just going to do new roofing leads. And then now we want to determine our budget. In this case, I recommend just starting off with something simple like $5 a day. Okay, so now that we've named our campaign, we want to set our conversion location just as we talked about before. You're going to get a slightly different selection of options depending on your objective. For most of them, it's usually on the platform or off the platform. So for example, a website is usually going to be the most common one. This is where's your website or the landing page or the particular page you want them to go to. But you can also do calls, you can do instant forms. Instant forms are the most common ones for lead generation. This simply means that instead of having a form on the website that they would fill out, they're going to do it through Meta. But like I said, typically gets lower quality leads. It really depends on what you're trying to do. It works differently for each ICP. And that leads us into our second portion, which is C number 2, our customer. And this plays into a lot of the different facets, but now that we know where we're sending people, let's just say that our website is the easiest one, we need to decide who we're talking to. And this is where most small businesses also waste money. They target way too broad. And the reality is a lot of people probably don't want your stuff, so we want to send our ad to people who want our stuff. So when we scroll down here, and we're just going to do a basic audience, you'll see down here, this is who we actually want to send this to. Now, my pro tip, number 1 is this: target the problem state, not just the demographic. So when people always do this, they say, I want to sell to rich people. I want to sell to, my local area. I want to target business owners. Don't target business owners. Business owners who are frustrated because they've tried something is way too broad. When you understand that the problem state is more or less the same, but in slightly different ways of communicating, you'll realize that you really should be focusing on somebody, not just a business owner. So target somebody who's like, oh, this is a local chiropractor firm who's frustrated because they tried 3 different marketing agencies and got 0 new patients. That is very specific, which in turn results in cheaper ads, which in turn results in better leads. So when we go down here to our audience, you're going to want to click Show Suggestions, and this is where you can kind of carve out who you're actually looking to target. So think about the average age range. That's usually the most easy starting point for any business. Is it skewed along gender lines? Do more men or do more women? Are they more interested in your stuff? And then finally, you can get into detailed targeting. So pro tip number 2, broad targeting with specific messaging usually works best. Meta's algorithm is smarter than most advertisers, so give it room to optimize. You don't have to get super specific, but it is a good idea to exclude or include certain people. So let's say, for instance, I was going to do roofing leads. I might target somebody who is doing a homeowner, or this might not actually be a key target, but let's say we wanted to do, I don't know, let's say we wanted to do leads for somebody who's actually going to buy a hot tub, as an example. Well, if I was a hot tub salesperson, I'd probably target hot tub as the actual target point. And what you'll notice here is on the right side, this is your estimated audience size. You want this to be kind of in the green because, again, broad is better. The reality is there's not a lot of touch points, or at least targeting criteria, that you're going to be super specific with. And this is the part that kind of is where most business owners struggle. They think you can just go in and show an ad to everybody who wants a new roof. That's not how it works. So in this hot tub example, yes, there are people interested in hot tubs. So Meta does its best job to find people who are interested in hot tubs, searching around, joining some groups, liking some pages. But for a lot of interest, that's not how it works. So for a roofer, for instance, you might have to find cross-adjacent interests. People interested in home improvement, people interested in home building, people interested in, remodeling, as an example. It's kind of the same thing, but realistically, you have to think about it from a more emotional level. What would they be interested in? So I can't show something that would be like, oh, this person is searching for this specific thing, and just show them ads. They're ready to buy. They have money. That would be great. But in reality, you have to understand their demographic, interests, or behaviors, hence why Meta targets that. So pro tip 3, you can use exclusions. You can use exclusions as well. So if I did want to, say, go back here and say, let's say dental leads. I want to sell dentists something. I might go into my audience here and say, are they a dentist? Now, this exactly illustrates why this is a struggle for most business owners. How many people put dentist as their job title on Meta? Are a lot less than you would actually think. So it's targeting a much smaller pool right now. And the problem is this is, by the way, the entire United States. If you scroll up here, you could see location. I haven't even gotten to that yet, but it's very important that we just selected dentist. And from the entire United States, it went down from, millions of people to 1,600 to 1,800. So I might have to find people who are interested in dentistry, who list another variation of dentist slash orthodontist, orthodontics, dental surgery doctors, all of these ones here, cosmetic dentistry, doctor of dental surgery. Think about these things that are inside of here because they're going to increase your pool and you want it to still be broad. But again, keep it safe, keep it some breathing room. If you really want to, the pro tip number 3 comes into place here, where we can define further, and we could say they also must match another thing. So if I just wanted dental practice owners, instead of just saying dentistry interests, I might also say page admin. So this means that somebody who is a dentist and is the admin of a Facebook page, which likely means that they're the owner, will see my ad, as an example. But you can also do the same thing. You can also basically if you want to chain these together. I do not recommend starting off that crazy. Just pick one interest. So I'm going to delete all these for now. And for now, we're just going to run an ad that gets dentists. So in this case, we're going to basically target a dentist. So that's their job title. We're targeting, I don't think there's many dentists at the age of 18. And let's go with let's go with probably age 28, to maybe like 55 to narrow this down just a little. So then you can also, if you want to get more granular, you can also target different locations. So in this case, if I'm trying to get dental leads, I can provide dental marketing services anywhere in the United States. But if I'm trying to sell Christmas trees, you're going to want to show your ad probably within a 20-mile radius of people who are around my Christmas tree farm, because nobody across the country is going to buy them. So when it comes down to it, if you're struggling to define your customer, my pro tip number 4 is describe your customer like you know them personally. Look at your support tickets, look at Reddit, look at reviews, look at surveys, steal their language. If your ad is reading like you're inside their head and you know what this person is, you're feeling like this targeting is a good representation of the average person that you want to buy your stuff, you're already on the right path. Then finally, we're going to get down to the bottom of our set, and now this is the part where we start to talk about our copy, or our C number 3. So copy is the text, the message, the actual offer you're putting in front of someone. Now, pro tip number 1, your first line determines the results. Your first line is the hook. It's 80% of whether or not somebody stops scrolling. So an example might be, if you're an MSP losing clients because your ticket times suck. If your ads aren't working, here's why. If you can't get new patients into your practice and you've tried everything, here's one thing you haven't tried. Don't overcomplicate it, but within the first 5 seconds, if your best friend was the person you were trying to sell this to, and you only had 5 seconds to get their attention, what would you say? You have to stop the scroll. And the copy, realistically, the language you use, the text, the message, everything inside of it, whether it is an image or a video, is realistically about 80 to 70% of an ad's success. Bad offer, bad copy, bad hook, all make it so your ad's not going to land. So pro tip number 2 is to just write like your customer actually talks. When it comes down to it, this is where you would start to put all of your elements inside of your copy. And what you want to understand is we're not selling the product, we're not selling the service. You want to write like you're inside of their head. Write it from their mouth and mimic their real language. Use their exact phrases. And more importantly, when it comes to that pro tip 3, people don't buy what you do. They will buy what the changes as a result of what you do are. They buy the outcomes of it. Now, example is people don't want IT support. They want to stop losing clients because of their technical failures. People don't want Facebook ads, and they want more patients for their dental practice. People don't want to get healthier. They want to lose 10 pounds in 30 days and feel better about themselves. So realistically, focus on the transformation if you're struggling. This is the part where you're not really going to do a lot of this inside of your campaign. You'd just be populating it in here, but it is important because the copy serves as everything moving forward. So the last tip I can offer you is that the offer matters more than your copy at the end of the day. No amount of clever wording can fix the offer. If your offer isn't compelling, rewrite the offer, not the ad. If anything, you could stand in front of your cell phone and film the same ad 10 times in a row with 10 different offers, and that would tell you more about anything in your business than you'd ever need to know about having flashy visuals, about having all these things. This is usually where people tend to struggle, is because they want to be fluffy about it. They want to say they're local, they're friendly, they have a great team, they're super creative, they have this brand equity, they have this brand voice. Nobody cares. They want the thing. They want the outcome. So don't try and be fancy with it. Just focus on simple, easy, powerful copy. Now, the 4th thing we want to understand and why we're at this screen is number 4, our C4, is creative. Creative is what they see, not what they read. Your copy is what's going to be in there, meaning how you script your videos, how you put the text on your images, but its only job is to stop the scroll long enough for the copy to actually do its job. get their attention, and then at the end of the day, turn that attention into action. That's the whole point of your creative. Now, when it comes down to your creative, if you want just an easy formula to follow, pro tip number one, faces beat fancy. Talking head videos, just like you're seeing my face, my eyes right here, they always be fancy. Talking head videos, simple visuals, simple offer will always outperform expensive production 99% of the time. A lot of the times I see this in businesses where they want to be creative, they want to be luxury, they want to hire a videographer. Don't do any of that until you just have it down to a point where it's just your face, the offer, easy to follow text. The second one is that ads that typically look like ads don't usually work as well. I know, ironic, but think about it. Your eye, especially nowadays, because we're inundated with ads left and right, it has been trained to see the ad as an ad. You can kind of subconsciously pick up on what it actually is before you even go through the full process. The more your ad looks like native content, meaning somebody shot it with a cell phone, it's off the cuff, it's just a regular person, the better it typically performs. And I've seen this over and over and over again. Trust me on this. Nobody will care if you use fancy graphics, if you try and be luxury, if you try and be complicated. They will care if you give them a simple, easy to follow offer that doesn't look like an ad. So let's do this. We're going to pull in a demo ad inside of here. We'll do this Cyber Monday one, and I'm actually going to switch over to an image ad. Okay, so once we've actually gotten to this page, I'm going to upload an image ad inside of here just to demo this. So I'm going to drag that in. And this is a very simple, easy ad that we made. This one actually pulled in about $3,000 in one day for selling these calendars. When you get to here, it's very important that you need two variations. You're going to have a square version and usually a portrait version. At some point, hit replace and make sure you have a portrait and a square version. It will make this a lot easier. And this is the part where people tend to also struggle. Primary text. This is where your copy would go. So your primary text could be something like Cyber Monday sale is live. And then your headline is something to get the people moving, only 500 left. Your description, Cyber Monday deal on art. The biggest thing is that your primary text is the wall of text above the ad. Your headline is the one next to the button of the ad, and your description at the end of the day is going to be the additional text in some other placements, like when you do some partner ones. Most important thing is your primary headline and your call to action. So your call to action typically needs to mirror what you want them to do. So in this case, if this were something where I had a Cyber Monday deal, I want them to shop now. And then this, you can go ahead and hit done if you want to add the enhancements, and now you'll see the preview of your ad over here. Now, pro tip number 3, show, do not tell. Demos always outperform a claim, and proof always outperforms a promise. So in this example, this is a very basic ad, I would say, where somebody's going to sell these calendars. If I had some social proof that I could leverage where I was like, oh, a celebrity bought this, or 1,000 people have already bought it, or it's got a 4.9 rating, that would be great for sales. Same thing with leads. If I say, hey, we can make you a lot of money, that's not going to land as effectively as I worked with somebody like you and I made them a lot of money, here's how. So if you have screenshots, results, behind the scenes, that's content gold. Leverage that to your advantage. And then the last pro tip is your first second is really the whole game. I know we keep talking about this, but fast motion, pattern interrupts, bold statements, curiosity hooks, if you do not stop them in the first second, the ad is dead. Hence why I would say on this one as an example for a sales ad, only 24 hours left, only 500 left. Cyber Monday bundle, what they get, why it matters, how much they're getting off versus buying these individually. Those are very compelling reasons to stop the scroll, so to speak. When it comes to leads, if we were doing this, well, the harsh truth is nobody knows you exist. Nobody knows why they should trust you, and nobody is willing to probably take action unless you can stop that scroll. That really determines everything moving forward. So again, the way I think about it is you got 5 seconds, your best friend's gonna die unless he gets your product or service. How do you get his attention? Write that down. Write 10 of those down. Those are your 10 hooks. And most of the time, hooks are usually contrarian statements in nature, especially with service-based businesses. What you don't know about this. Did you know that this is secretly costing you that? You might not know this, but this is hurting your thing. This sucks. This isn't. This is some sort of contrarian statement that gets people to just stop and think. And at the end of the day, we don't want to use fluff statements. Again, fluff statements are things like, we're local, we're friendly, we have great customer service. Good hooks are not fluff statements. So, and I promised a fifth one, but before we get into that, if you are struggling to still kind of do this, I know it's a lot to take in for your business, you can click on the link in the description, and if you qualify, I'll give you one-on-one guidance on how to build profitable ad campaigns for your business 100% free. Now, with that in mind, there is something I do want to note here, and that is most of the time, businesses don't know how to optimize for their objective because they haven't set up the objective infrastructure. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but for instance, if you want to get leads, you have to tell it where that lead actually happens. So when you go down to the bottom of the page here, you'll see an option typically. It's not live right now, but it will say something along the lines of a pixel. And if you go into your events manager, we won't go too deep into this video, but if you need help setting this up, this is one of the things I do also help businesses with, is that Facebook, Meta, Instagram, they can't really understand what happens off platform. Meaning if, yes, somebody were to click this ad and go and buy my thing, and I'm optimizing for sales, my website needs to tell Meta, hey, this guy bought this thing, go find more people like that guy. If your ads aren't working when you launch them, it's also probably not just because you didn't do all this, it's probably because your platform or wherever you're sending people isn't communicating back to Meta. It needs to know if somebody books a time on your calendar, if somebody buys something from your store, if somebody fills out that form. Very important. So the last one, C5, context. And this is how you think like a pro level marketer, because you might be saying to yourself, well, I have my Facebook, I have my page linked, I have my copy, I have my offer, I have my creative, everything's ready to go, right? Slightly. The last thing you need to understand, and this is the secret ingredient almost no beginners think about, is where are people mentally when they see your ad? So pro tip number one, there's 3 stages of traffic. Cold, warm, and hot. And these are 3 different ads. Cold audiences just need education and clarity. They don't know what this thing is. They're not problem aware. They don't understand why it matters. They don't understand how it's going to solve their problem. They just need education. Warm audiences need proof and specifics. So they're looking at your competitors. They're looking at similar options. They don't quite understand why they should choose you. And then hot audiences, they just need urgency and an offer. Never, ever use the same ad for all 3. Meaning you don't want to run, let's run through this scenario. Let's say you had a platform for a spa and you're trying to run some special promotion for some sort of massage. Well, at the end of the day, the people who are looking at spas, who are looking for massages, who have found your website, who are almost going to book your service, you wouldn't communicate to the same way as somebody who has an achy back, for instance, but doesn't know that a deep tissue massage could solve that, doesn't know you exist, and hasn't ever really explored this avenue. So pro tip number 2 is that the platform itself will fundamentally change your message. A Facebook feed does not equate to the same as a story or a reel. Now, a feed is slower, usually more educational. Reels are fast and punchy, and stories are usually more intimate and direct, meaning that if somebody's scrolling through their Facebook feed and seeing all of these posts from their friends, from their coworkers, from whatever, you have to understand that it's a bit more slow. It's more casual. It's for them to stop the scroll. Whereas if they're using their reels like a slot machine, they're looking at 6-second videos, 10-second videos, brain rot material, something on there that the algorithm is trying to feed them to just keep getting to swipe. So understand that contextually, some of these might play out differently and react accordingly in your copy and creative. And then the last 2 tips I can offer you when it comes to this context is to match the emotional temperature. So if you want to break it down simply, cold, here's the problem you're feeling. Warm, here's how you solve it. Hot, here's why now. Education, objection, offer. What is this thing? Why does it matter? How can I get started? Just formulate it into that different stage. If you're running an ad for the same language for everybody, it's not going to work. And realistically, when it comes down to it, this is also service or product dependent, meaning that the people who have never heard of you will probably spend less. Whereas the people who have bought a lot of your stuff that you're running an ad for will probably spend on bigger and better things. Same thing in the service industry. If you are targeting, let's say, a landscaper, and you want to target anybody who needs landscaping, well, that's somebody who has a waterfront home with a big yard in the back. That's somebody who also has just, business landscaping, who has a rockery wall. You're not going to communicate the same way. Your targeting will play into factor, but your language is going to be slightly different. And a lot of them, why this matters is because they have different preconceived notions. The wealthy homeowner with the waterfront property is probably going to be more likely to be a hot buyer because they don't want to deal with it. They have money to spend. Whereas the business owner who has, I don't know, an office building that needs landscaping, they're skeptical. They don't need another vendor. So you have to really understand that they are probably while they might be a warm buyer, they're still going to be more skeptical. And the last tip is essentially just context is going to create more resonance at the end of the day. A good ad shown in the wrong context becomes a bad ad. A decent ad shown in the right context becomes a winner. So it's very important that if somebody looks at your ad and says, "Oh man, that's me. I'm going through this. This is speaking my language." Even if it's a halfway decent ad, even if the video quality's not good, the audio's kind of bad, there's not really any graphics, but it's shown at the right time to the right potential buyer, that will massively outperform the best ad in the world that has zero contextual awareness for the wrong person. What I've done with my high performing ads is the same framework. I started off with picking just one thing. So number one, my conversion was, in this case, I wanted to target these IT managers and I wanted to get leads. Number two, that IT manager, that MSP provider who I'm running that ad for, I know exactly who I was speaking to, what their interests were, what their hobbies were, what their job titles were. Number three, the copy, the message I was writing, the offer was all tuned to their needs, how they communicate. Number four, the creative, the way they look, the way they act, the visuals were all built to stop the scroll. And then finally, number five, I matched their different awareness. I can't work with somebody who's just starting out, and I can't really work with somebody who's doing $1 billion a year, so I have to match that ad awareness to the level of awareness, the platform, and that emotional state. So to recap, conversion. Pick the right objective and destination. The best ad in the world is not going to fix the worst destination. If what happens after they click the ad is confusing, you're just burning money. Number two, who are you working with? Your customer. Define exactly who you're speaking to. Number three, write the message in the offer like it came from their mouth. Study their habits, study their language. Number four, creative, build visuals that stop the scroll in 5 seconds. And number five, context. Understand where they're at in the buyer's journey so that your ad gets them to say, "Hey, that's me." Do this and all of your ads will work because you're building them in the same sequence that Meta itself expects. Now, if you do want plug and play templates for the 5C method, if you just want the scripts, if you want ad examples, landing page formulas, I do send them to my email list for free. The link is in the description. You can see if you qualify as well for my access and my team's access to go through your ad campaign or your marketing strategy one-on-one for free. And if you found this video helpful as well, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I do put out a video every single week, but that's all I have for you today. Until then, I will see you next time.